Hey there, welcome back to the RiskWell Answers video, where we take real questions from our clients and stakeholders and answer them here on our YouTube channel and our website. In this video, the subject is what is not covered by the builder's risk policy. Here at RiskWell, we do a lot of work with real estate investors, with real estate developers, with builders, with flippers and rehabbers. Builder's risk policy is maybe one of the most common things that we do at RiskWell. One of the questions that comes up again and again and again is what is covered and what is not covered on the builder's risk policy. So we're going to get into three things in this video that are not covered in the builder's risk policy. They're covered elsewhere. We have to structure your insurance program to make sure that it is customized for exactly what your needs are, so you get everything you need and nothing you don't need. Let's get into the details right after this. All right, so there's three things we're covering in this video that are not included in the builder's risk policy. The first thing that's not covered on the builder's risk insurance policy is general liability kind of exposures. General liability is a casualty insurance policy. When you hear the word casualty, I want you to think third party. It is financial liability to another party, an outside party. Builder's risk insurance is all about first-party coverages. It's you, your asset, your equipment, your schedule of whatever it happens to be, tools and installation materials, things that are about to be installed in your property. That's something we'll get into here in just a little bit. But for general liability exposures, you want to have a casualty policy that pairs with the builder's risk policy. Now, some builder's risk policies, most of them, are written on a one-off basis, sometimes referred to as a hotshot basis, where the policy is designed to be written for a given period of time. The work is performed and completed, and the policy has no reason to exist anymore. By contrast, general liability policies are designed to be written on an ongoing annual basis. They're not project specific, typically speaking, and they are all encompassing across every job that is being performed for a given policy term, which is usually 1 year. Builder's risk policy can be as short as 3 months. A lot of times you'll see it written on an annual basis with a prorated refund policy. So if your job gets done in 4 or 5 months, then you have a prorated refund. Not the case with general liability. So if you are running a rehab or a flipping operation, if you're a builder, if you're a real estate developer, you're going to want to get a standalone general liability policy and also, most likely, a commercial liability umbrella, sometimes referred to as excess liability. But that's going to cover all of your construction-related operations as well as bodily injury and property damage, which is outside of the scope of the builder's risk policy. The second thing that is not covered on the builder's risk policy is business property as well as contents. So if you have stuff in the house, if you have furniture, if you have uninstalled building materials, there's a lot of things that are not covered on a builder's risk policy in regards to property, personal property, business property, whatever it happens to be. It's typically not covered on a builder's risk policy. That's designed to be covered on a commercial property policy or homeowners if it is a residential owner-occupied kind of property. Doesn't really happen at RiskWell very often, especially after we sold our home and auto book of business earlier in 2023. But contents and business property need to be addressed elsewhere. If you have uninstalled building materials that are on premises, where you're in the middle of a job and you just haven't installed the stuff, but you're keeping cabinets or flooring or drywall, sheetrock, whatever it happens to be, maybe in a locked garage or something, you need to make sure that the policy allows for it, because you may be better off, depending on the scale of your operation and what all you're into, maybe better off with an installation floater that is specifically designed and underwritten and priced for all the jobs that you have going on, this one and the one across town, and whatever is going on for your exposure. Wherever you have property, wherever you have assets that are on the premises somewhere, you want to make sure that you are taking into account what the builder's risk policy that your agent has placed with you covers and doesn't cover. For RiskWell, most of the ground up construction that we do is placed either with Liberty Mutual or with Chubb. But on the retail the rehab and renovation, we have any number of places where we might place the coverage based on the unique characteristics of the risk that you bring us. So we'll have that conversation when we tell you what's covered and what's not covered. But generally speaking, business property and contents probably not going to be covered. And the third and final thing in this video that is not covered on the builder's risk insurance policy is accidents and injuries to employees or to subcontractors. Why is that? Because all of those exposures are designed to be covered on the workers' compensation insurance policy. It's not supposed to get picked up on the builder's risk policy because in the state of Texas, where RiskWell is domiciled, and in virtually every state across the land, the workers' compensation policy has what are called statutory limits, where they're designed to be the quote-unquote sole and exclusive remedy for three things: on-the-job accidents, injuries, and diseases to your workforce, both W-2 employees and, in most cases, 1099 subcontractors that do more than 50% of their total work with your company. So if you have a set of regular subs that are doing regular work for you, definitely want to have a conversation about workers' compensation insurance, because it's one, not covered on builder's risk insurance, never, ever covered on builder's risk insurance. Every company I've ever heard of has a hard and fast exclusion on that kind of coverage being offered on a builder's risk policy. But more importantly, if you have employees, if you have regular subcontractors, you want to make sure that you're covering your exposure in preparing a safe work environment, because you probably have a regulatory obligation to make a plan for that. And if you're not doing workers' compensation insurance, then you have to be either ready to pay for it out of pocket or have some kind of provision for when you inevitably get sued because something happens on a premises and there's an accident or an injury to one of your workers or subcontractors and you don't have a work comp policy in place, because the builder's risk policy is definitely not going to cover it. That's it for this video. If you want to have any further conversations on these subjects, we'd love to have a chat with you. Our number is right there on the screen, 469-678-8001. And that's it for this episode of RiskWell Answers. Make it a great day, boys and girls. We'll talk to you again real soon. Y'all take care.